I've been teaching up in New York for a while,
Okay, okay.
and then I
But
moved.
with Duke, it'd been 25 years or so.
Huh?
I'm saying with Duke, it had been 25 years,
Oh, at Duke is I've been at Duke for 28 years.
28 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
All
Okay.
Uh-huh.
right, you all alive, so let's get
Oh,
the show in the road. All righty. Welcome everyone to the Pensacola Network, and we're all excited getting our Memorial Day weekend started off. We're hoping everybody's going to play it safe and be safe, but we're excited about our two guests tonight. So we'll let Robin get started with the
well,
show.
first as well, we're gonna say hello first.
Yes. Okay.
and tell everybody to have, yes, a safe Memorial Day. And I know we've got folks from around the South listening, and maybe even up north. Just have a safe Memorial Day weekend. And I know that the country and the world is opening back up, and just continue to be safe and healthy, and forward thinking, progressive, and kind. Very kind is a good word to have, to really go in kindness and love. So just as we can keep fighting the good fight and do it in kindness and love. So, and especially this weekend as we all celebrate, that's a good thing.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, for sure.
All righty. Why don't you introduce our guest?
Okay, well, we're going to start the Pensacola Network show a bit early, and then we'll come back and thank our sponsors and all of that. I'm so excited that we are really privileged. I was saying on the radio this morning with Robert Hill with WRNE Radio, talking about this, that this virtual environment this is only the second time in 8 years that we have gone outside of this area to interview someone. And the first one was Mike Howard, NASA motivational speaker out of Atlanta. And then this one, we are, when you swing big. And this one, we are swinging big again. I'm so excited to have Professor Bradley Simmons from Duke University, a world-renowned percussionist and music professor, to join us. So y'all, this is Professor Simmons. This is everybody clapping for you that you can't see.
I
Clapping
got
for
you.
you. And I'm so grateful for Napoleon Williams with Palimbatry, making the connection to us. You are two percussionists that are like-minded, because you both think of the community and how you can keep this history alive. So I'm really excited to have this conversation with you today. This is real. This is a great joy, and especially as we talk about, we just celebrated the Florida emancipation here, and then looking towards Juneteenth. Emancipation June is Black Music Month, so just a lot. And music has been in all of our lives for forever, for as long as we can remember, and it's given us some sort of sound around celebration, graduations, especially now, bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs, funerals, religious services, romantic night dinners. I just started thinking about Billy D and Denzel. So let me come back here. So music gives us a particular mood too, and it conveys a message. We're going to talk about civil rights. Professor Simmons is going to talk about the history of that, how it really sets a stage for righting wrongs and just for the pure art forward. So again, Professor Bradley Simmons is a professor of music and a music director at Duke University for over 25 years, 28 years. Let me get that right. He has performed with such luminaries as singer and actor Eartha Kitt, dancer and singer Gregory and Maurice Hines, singer Miles J., a Floridian, and actor, dancer, and singer, one of my favorites, Oba Babatunde. And that we can see, Lord and I like SWAT, and so you can see him on that show. But he is a formidable actor
Every Wednesday.
Every Wednesday, that's right. So please welcome again, Professor Bradley Simmons. This is a special treat. We're so excited. So excited to have you. Thank you so much for being here. So my first question to you is, when did you know that music could shape your life? When did you know that music was it?
When I was about 8 years old. When I was about 8, that's when I started taking tap dancing and drumming over at the Gloria Jackson School of Dance in Queens, New York, on Merritt Boulevard. And at that time, it wasn't called Gloria Jackson. It was actually called Leroy and Gloria Jackson School of Dance, because they had partnered up together. And then years later, after a while, Leroy decided he wanted to retire from that, and Gloria bought him out, and so the name was changed to the Gloria Jackson School of Dance.
Oh,
and,
cool.
I started at her school. Well, I started at the school in 1960. And from there, I stayed there for at least 10, 15 years. And then I moved on, joined the union, the musicians union, and started doing Broadway shows from that point on.
When do you remember the moment when you said that this music sort of shapes your life? So you talk about tap as performing art, but when did you know that music could really shape what you thought and did and felt?
Once I actually started performing, when I did my first performance at the Hillside Theater, at the studio, at the Gloria Jackson School of Dance, I knew right there and then that was it. And
Wow.
I didn't know I was going to stay on, play music as long as I did. Sometimes you start out as a hobby and just something to do. Because my mother, she brought me into the studio just to get me off the streets.
Okay.
Yeah, back then, because times was a little tough back then in Queens. So, a lot of the parents in the neighborhood, took us out of the streets and put us into the studio. And that's when we knew some of us stayed and some of us, got out of it. But I chose to stay in it, and I never left from the time I started. That's when I knew I was hooked as a musician and an artist.
Did your mother or any of your family members around you have have music on their mind, or as a profession or a hobby, as you said?
Yeah, my mother was into acting, so she did a lot of theater. But I grew up with one of my cousins who was a piano player and a singer. So we both studied music at the same time.
Okay.
He was studying piano and voice, and I was studying drums. So we kind of, left the house together, because we grew up together. We left the house together, taking the train. He would go into Manhattan, lower Manhattan, and I would go upper Manhattan, into Harlem, and take my lessons up there, and he would take his lessons downtown. So he was studying voice and piano.
So when did you know that then you could, once you start performing, when did you know that you then could shape music?
Well, I say when I got out of high school, or during high school, and then when I got out of high school, I knew right there, because I had a goal, and my goal was to do a Broadway show. Whether I did one show, 2, 3, or 4, but I just wanted to do one. I didn't know how I was going to get one, but I said that's what I wanted to do. And in 1976, I got a call to do Guys and Dolls.
Wow.
And that was an all-black cast at the time. In 76, Bob Guillaume from Benson.
Oh,
He was in that show. And Jimmy Randolph, Ernestine Jackson, Ken Page, who did Cats, and then he was in Guys and Dolls, and then he moved on to do some TV and film. So
Robert Guillaume for me was Pearly Victorious.
Right, that's right. That's right. So so
Yep.
That's right. He was in Pearly Victorious. Matter of fact, he took Sherman Hensley's place.
Yep. So
at the time.
we have it on VCR. Yes, Lord.
Right, yeah. He took Sherman Henson's place at the time. But most people didn't know that Robbie could sing. And he was a very good singer. And he played Nathan Detroit in Guys and Dolls, and that's
Okay.
what led him into doing Soap and Benson.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, because
Okay.
the producers came to the show one night, and then when the show was over, they went backstage, talked to him. Next thing I know, he was leaving.
Wow.
Yeah, he was gone on his way to LA, Hollywood.
Wow.
And that's how he got Benson and he started out in Soap first, and then from there he got his own show as Benson.
So then how did you then know, so you find out from high school that you can start shaping music. How did you know that that you then could shape the lives of others through your music?
By
What was
teaching.
that kind of aha moment?
By teaching. So I started teaching. Once I started teaching, I grabbed these young kids, and that was interested in playing drums. And I said, listen, this is what I do. This is what you can do. Okay. So once I started teaching the kids and they all got into it, then we started performing. And then I started working with different dance companies between Brooklyn and Queens, and then up in Harlem. I played with the Rock Bass Company for years.
Wow.
And doing a lot of performing, then doing school gigs. And so in terms of what you do with the drum is, that's the number one instrument. And once you take that drum and you can play it in any form of music. You can play it in gospel music, you can play it in jazz, you can play it in contemporary music and R&B. So I knew right there that I was going to take this instrument and take it to the highest height and make good out of it all the way to the end.
Wow. You were still in New York at the time that you started teaching?
Yeah. I didn't leave. I first left New York in '86 and I moved down to Atlanta. I stayed there for 3 years, came back to New York. And then I stayed in New York up until '93.
So this at this time you would be considered a professional musician. I mean, music was what paved the way for you.
Yes, because by that time, that's when I started doing. I was doing Broadway let's see, Guys and Dolls was the first one, so that was in '76. That was my first real big one, was Guys and Dolls. And then I moved on from there. Then I started doing, variety shows, TV. And once I started working with Eartha Kitt, I used to travel with her wherever she went. And I did all her nightclub work and all her TV shows.
Wow.
In LA, when we was in LA.
Wow. You have literally touched legends. I mean, people that we see, that's really cool. I mean, you talk about the drum being the instrument, and that's sort of, as a friend of ours says here, Honor, he always goes, it's the heartbeat, that
Right.
you have really provided that steady beat for some amazing entertainers.
And see, with Maurice Hines, he had a thing for the conga drum. He loved conga drums. If you can play conga drums, you was in with him.
Mm.
So I started playing with his big band in New York, and then we did a lot of showcases up there. But he had a thing for that conga drum because he would interact. We would do things together where he would do something with his tap dancing, and I would mark him at the same time.
On the congas.
On the congas, yeah. So whatever he did on the floor, I would do the same thing on the drum. So he would start it, I would answer like a call and response.
Wow, yeah.
And it was the same thing with Gregory, the same way.
Wow. And what, I mean, so we talk about, and I know this is a passion for you, this is a skill, and this is work for you, but we see these folks on the screen, we see them and they're kind of larger than life. And so I dare say that it really is it's all art, it's all music. It really is what we're talking about, music as a social construct. It is all about how people are shaping music to convey a message or to fit a scheme or a narrative or something like that. They're doing the
Right.
same thing that you're teaching your students.
Right, exactly. You know, Stevie Wonder had an album called Song to the Key of Life.
Absolutely.
Okay, so everything he did has something to do with living. Okay, all his songs on that album represent the way of life that either he lived or the way people live.
Mm-hmm.
It's like one of the best albums he ever made.
Yeah. We as a local musician, well, he moved here, actually moved from Atlanta. You and Pauline were talking about Atlanta. You were talking about Atlanta. Clarence Bell actually played on that album. He passed, I guess, about 5 years ago, but he was a organist. And so he lived here, final in Pensacola.
Right.
So yeah, it's one of my favorite albums. Yeah. And I mean album, that's the one we have in there, the album.
Right, yeah. At that time, yeah. Now, you mentioned, who'd you mention? Denzel and Billy D?
Absolutely. Don't make me smile again. Yes.
Yeah, I met both of them. Both of them was two of the nicest guys you ever want to know.
Wow.
Back then, and, you know, even though Denzel, well, when I met him at the time, he wasn't Denzel at the time. He was just getting started. But even after he became big, he still maintained himself.
Yeah.
Okay, and Billy D. Williams was the same way. I ran into him actually down here at the Black Theater Festival.
Okay.
Yeah, and so all of the actors, singers, dancers would come to the Black Theater Festival when they have it in Winston-Salem.
Wow.
So you'll see them all. They all used to come down here.
Wow.
Esther Rose, Jimmy, what's his name? Who played the daddy in Good Times? What was his name?
Oh, John Amos.
John Amos. John Amos comes down here every year, and all he wanted to do is play drums.
Wow.
So we would bring a drum for him to play because we knew he was going to be there.
Wow.
And then he always liked to hang around the drummers. And so he would come around while we playing and said, "Okay, John, here's your drum, sit right here."
That's amazing.
Matter of fact, if you see, well, you can go look at the outtakes of the newest Coming to America. There's pictures of him. There's still pictures of him playing the drum.
Okay.
Him and Arsenio.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so he loved the drum. That's all he wanted to do.
Professional percussionist in the making, huh?
Yeah. Outside of his acting, drumming was his next best thing.
Well, let's go to what since you talk about being there in North Carolina. How did West African music and history form how you look outward today? What was it? What was it about West African music and the history that grabbed you? And I'm from Liberia, so if that influenced you, I'm from Liberia. My great grandmother was from Liberia, so if that okay, I'm really interested in that.
Right. So in terms of West African music, the popular drum for that drum is called the djembe. That's what most people were playing from Mali on down to Sierra Leone. That's the number one drum that everybody played in the West. Okay. You said you from Sierra Leone?
My great grandmother. I apologize, not me, but I feel it, from Liberia.
Oh, from Liberia. Okay. In Liberia, they didn't call it. They played djembe, but they didn't call it that. They called it sangba, because there was a group that came to New York from Liberia, and at the end of the show, we went up to the stage and talked to them, and we asked them. We noticed the way they was playing their drums was a little different than the way they play in Guinea, Mali, and Senegal. So we said, "Well, what do y'all call this drum?" And the guy said, "It's called a sangba." And we looked at each other like in shock. I said, "Well, how did it go from sangba? How did it go from djembe to sangba?" And it was just their origin. That's what they called it there.
And the djembe and the conga are the two, when most people think about percussions, that those are the two that really stand out.
Yeah, the conga drum started out first. The conga drum and the ashiko drum started out first. The djembe is fairly new. Even though it came here in 1959, and it came by way of the dance company out of Guinea called the Le Ballet Africain. The lead drummer for the Le Ballet Africain, came to New York, but he left, but then he was summoned to come back to start a group. When he came back, again, this was in '59, what they summoned him to do fell through. So he got stuck in the United States and he couldn't get back to Guinea. So he connected with one of the drummers here by the name of Chief Bay, and he decided he wanted to stay. So Chief Bay helped him get his green card.
Wow.
That's when the djembe started to come out in the mid '60s. But still nobody knew what kind of drum this guy was playing. And nobody had no idea. It was just a drum from Africa. We didn't know where the drum was from. It had no name. We didn't know the name until like the mid '60s when he started playing at the World's Fair, '64, '65 World's Fair in New York. The drum then started to pick up in the late '60s, early '70s, all the way through where we are today. So right now, the most popular drum today is the djembe. Before that was the conga drum and the ashiko.
And this whole idea, so you talk about what I would consider a relatively modern period about how West African music and history have impacted us, but you often hear about drumming with people who were then enslaved in this country, bringing over their culture, and so that's more of a southern route, if you will, more so than a northern route, and especially because it's 100 or so years before. Is there? I want to have to be careful asking. Is there truth to that? Is there, or what is the? I mean, and I know both can be true, but what is the story behind how drumming came to this country, or the art or the music then came to this country?
Okay, the story started in 1929, and the guy who brought the drum to this country, his name was Asadata de Fora.
Say it again.
Asadata de Fora.
Asagata de Fora. Okay.
Right. He was from Sierra Leone. Okay, he came in as a dancer and a drummer, and he was the one that brought the ashiko drum here first. After Asadata de Fora, well, he formed a dance company. Okay, in his dance company was a guy named Andy Torres, who was also in Guys and Dolls with us, and Esther Rose from Good Times and her sister. So Esther Rose wasn't always an actor. She started out as a dancer first. Okay, actually, I got pictures of Esther Rose when she was dancing with Asadata de Fora. After Asadata de Fora put his group together, then there was a drummer that came in from Ghana named Moses Miyanes. Moses Miyanes came here around 1934, and around 1934, and then he stayed all the way up until he passed away. But he did the 1934 Chicago World's Fair. Okay, because they were looking for some drummers, African drummers, to play in the 1934 World's Fair. Now, the way the story came about, Moses and his cousin was standing on the corner of 125th Street and 7th Avenue in Harlem, New York. This big black limousine pulls up on the curb where they were standing and asked them, got out the car and said, "Do you know any?" Well, he said it in a way where they took offense to it. They said, "Do you know any Negroes that know how to play drums?" Now the cousin was ready to kill the guy, and Moses had to pull him back. They didn't know what it was he wanted until after he calmed down. He said, Moses said, "Yeah, we'll do it for you." So the guy gives him his card. He says, "Give me a call. The gig is at the 1934 World's Fair in Chicago." Wow. That's what calmed down the cousin. When the cousin heard that story, that's when he calmed down and everything went okay. So the drumming really got started between Asadar Zafora, Moses Mianis, and his cousin, and then it moved on from there. Again, Esther Rose was part of Asadada's company as a dancer.
And this is amazing history. Feel like I'm in your class. This is just mind blowing. That so in this period, we think of all of the political and the women are just getting the right to vote, and they are trying to this whole poll tax issue. We're kind of coming to the end of that, the depression and all of this, and yet you see culturally, you see this sort of either integration of or showcasing these different cultures. And I know this is the World Fair, so it lends itself to that. But to me, that's amazing, and I think that's why our history is so important, because if you only get one particular perspective, you may miss this whole. You may miss the whole story. You may miss the whole of it. Exactly what you're talking about. You know that.
Right.
That yeah.
You mentioned Oba Babatunde. Most people do not know that he's a dancer and a drummer. He started out dancing and playing drums before he got into singing and acting.
Acting. Wow. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, because he was, matter of fact, he was the one that called me up to go down to the theater to do Timbuktu, because there was a guy there because he was in the show. He was already in it, and I knew he was in it. But he called me up at 2:00 in the morning one day. He said, "Bradley, wake up." I said, "Oba, it's 2:00 in the morning. This got to be good." He said, "Yeah, get down to the theater tonight because you need to get down there and talk to Danny Barahanis." I said, "Okay, what's going on?" So this guy, Danny Barahanis, was always out, but he had nobody to cover for him. So Oba said, "Go down there, talk to Danny, and see if you can become his understudy." I said, "Okay." Wow. I went down there, talked to Danny, and the rest was history. So how I got that show was by way of Oba Babatunde.
Wow. And he's still acting today. I mean, I know he's probably, seventh decade. He's amazing actor.
Oh yeah. And then we actually did 2 Broadway shows together. We did Timbuktu together and Reggae.
Okay.
He started out in Timbuktu in the chorus line, and then from there, Liza Minnelli came to the show one day, spotted him out, and then asked him to join her company to be co-star, her co-star in her cabaret show.
Wow. And
he did that for a few years. Then he came back, and then that's when we did Reggae together with Philip Michael Thomas and Cheryl Lee Rowell. Yeah,
okay. Powerhouse.
Yeah, Cheryl and Calvin Lockhart. He was also in that show together too.
I think we've kind of touched on this a bit, but what can we learn today from how West African music, and so you talked about the 1929, 1934 period, but what can we learn today from West African music, especially how they've gone through Charles Taylor and Doe and then Madame Johnson Sirleaf, and I forget who the president is now, but so they've gone through this whole kind of political change, and they've gone through I'm talking about Liberia. So they've gone through uprisings, and you've seen music really be influenced by them. So as in this country, we've seen, especially the last few years, this political uprising and change and racial reckoning, and we see, like, was it Andra Day wrote "I'll Rise Up" a few years ago for something else, but then that became one of the anthems for the Black Lives Movement.
Right.
So what does West African music teach us about how we are? What can it teach us about our environment today?
Well, it teaches you self-discipline, because especially when you're playing the djembe drum, because you have to have discipline to play that drum. Otherwise, it would just get out of hand. and becomes a nightmare. There is an art to that drum. It's not something you just bang on, which most people take it and they throw it in a drum circle and they just beat away, but there's no structure to that. But if you really play that particular drum the way it's supposed to be played, then the music becomes musical versus rhythmic noise. If that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so West African music today has taken a different direction. It even it ended up on Broadway. It was in Timbuktu. It was also in The Lion King.
Oh,
So,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So when
Very popular.
Right. So when The Lion King reopens, you'll see the djembe drum and the congas playing big time in that show. The musician, the drummer that's going to be playing in that show when it reopens, and they said he's going to come back in October. His name is Junior Weatherburn, and he's been doing the show for 22 years before it shut down. So he was there. He was there from the beginning. Okay, and then the djembe drum also landed in a show called Fela. I don't know if you've seen that show. It was about Fela Ransom, who was from Nigeria.
Okay.
Yeah,
I haven't known.
The big popular singer. He was an Afro pop singer. Before he passed. So they did a story on him on Broadway, and the djembe drum was one of the main instruments in that show as well. Well, mainly was really featured in there, as well as the conga drum. So the djembe now you can see it in rock music, you can see it in R&B music, you can hear it in jazz, you can hear it in
Uh-oh.
You can hear the yeah, somebody was calling me. I'm like, I'll get back to him. Yeah. So yeah, West African music today is like everywhere now. It uncovered the whole gamut, especially in the United States. Especially in the United States.
Yeah, you mentioned discipline and structure. Is that do you see the music being used that way here? I mentioned Andra Day's I'll Rise Up. Anderson .Paak, I think I discovered him last year. The NPR Tiny Desk series, he was playing there, and just amazing in the way his poetry comes out.
Right. It depends on who's playing and how well they approach the drum or approach the music, period. Okay, because everything I had one of my teachers, he was strict on discipline. I mean, he was like right there. He's like, do it this way or don't do it at all. Okay. And he was a singer. He was an opera singer as well as a drummer. His name was Chief Bay. He used to sing with he was singing with Leontine Price in the original cast of Porgy and Bess.
Oh wow.
And that was
our son will love hearing that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, this was back in the 50s when they did Porgy and Bess. Okay. And then he continued to sing all the way up until he passed. So, as a teacher, and I started studying with him when I was 14. And the one thing he was steadfast on was discipline. And I mean, he was hardcore with that. Matter of fact, all the teachers I had was based around discipline. So you got to have that in order to make that instrument work, or to make any instrument work. It doesn't matter. It could be a drum, it could be piano, it could be a saxophone, flute, clarinet, guitar, bass, whatever instrument you playing, you got to have self-discipline and structure. Otherwise, you won't have the Marcus Millers or the Count Basies, Duke Ellingtons, people like that, or as a singer, Luther Vandross.
And I don't think I asked you this question. I don't know that I saw it in your bio. Do you compose music?
I do.
And
drumming music. I compose drumming music. Yeah.
Okay. And so when you're composing that, and again, we're talking as a social construct, as a as a particular narrative, or as a trying to influence or tell a story, or document something that is in history? What is in your mind as you are then composing, and especially as this kind of worldview or community view? What's in your mind as you're composing it?
Well, it depends on how I feel at that point. Well, I have my own percussion ensemble called the Elements of Percussion. And the reason why I call it the Elements, because I was using different elements of percussion like congas, djembe, cowbell, the cowbell, shakeré, anything I can get my hands on. Okay. So we was playing multi percussion instrument. That's why I call it the Elements, because you had this element, you had that element, shakeré, you had the cowbell, the element of the cowbell, you had the element of the conga drum, and the element of the djembe. And I did. This. I did we did a song called. We combined two songs together. One was an African song to one of the African deities, Oduduwa, and we merged it with the song "Precious Lord."
Oh, wow!
That's something you need to hear. Okay. Again, my teacher Chief Bay actually put it together, and then we capitalized it. From that point on, we took it to the next level. So you have "Precious Lord" being sung first, the Oduduwa song in the Yoruba language sung after that, and then once both of the songs was sung, then we put the two together as one. So you're hearing Precious Lord" being sung, and the Oduduwa on top of the Precious Lord together with the drums.
And most time you hear Precious Lord, that I just imagine that is absolutely beautiful. Most time you hear Precious Lord, it is a piano piece. And
right,
so
right.
so you're bringing in a whole, as you said, an element. You're bringing in a whole different element.
Right, it's a whole different feeling with the drums behind it.
Yeah,
It was never done before until Chief Bay put it together then. And then we did it down here. And the woman that sang Precious Lord, her name was Rhonda Harrison. She had such a voice. And then the guy who sang along with her, his name was Robert Johnson. By the time the song was done, the audience, you could see everybody was crying by the time the song was finished, because of the way, the emotion of the song, the way it was done. Okay, and because they never heard it done like that before, especially with the drum. Most, like you said, most of the time it's either with piano or organ. Okay, with a choir behind it. Okay, a big choir. And but this time we just had Rhonda, Ebo, and maybe a few singers doing the backup singing along with drums only. With no, or one time we did it with a piano, but originally it was done with drums only.
Okay, this has been fascinating. I mean, even the anyway, it's been just, I've written so many notes here to go back and look. But I do want to, before we bring up Polian, I do want to just a couple of more questions. One is how can communities or institutions, you talk about the discipline and the structure, how can they use music to construct their own narrative, and how does the percussion come in there, all the different percussion instruments come in there to form their own narrative, like you talked about with Precious Lord and combining that?
Right, you can actually take any song and mix it with drums. Any song will work with drums, okay, especially the hand drumming, because you have the natural voice singing, and then you have the natural skin on the drum being played by somebody, with their bare hands. So all of it blends in. It depends on who's playing, who's singing, and how they approach it. It's all about the approach first, because you can't just jump into it and just play anything, because it's just not going to make any sense. But if you take it with some kind of form of structure and do some studying with it, because a lot of it comes from studying first. You know, anybody can grab a drum and start playing, but you got to know what you're playing. And I always tell my students, I said, listen, anybody can do this, but you have to study. If you don't study, it's not going to work at all. So I always stress, taking lessons, study, do your research, look at a lot of videos, watch this artist, look at that artist. And I always tell them, because this is what I did. I didn't always look at drummers to perfect what I did. I looked at other artists, like I looked at singers, I looked at dancers, I looked at actors. I was watching how good they were in their craft. I said, okay, let me apply what they got going on there and put it towards the drum. Okay, and then that's how you excel from there.
Yeah. I remember, I'll say this and then we'll bring Polian on. I don't remember which late night show it was, but I think the first time that I had seen a woman playing drums was Terry Lynn Carrington. And I don't remember what, I think I was probably a teenager, just blew me away, because in the percussion world, I'd only seen men, and there obviously were women. I just had not noticed them, but she was front and center. And I don't remember which late night talk show that she was either a guest on or played on.
She was on the Jay Leno show.
Okay.
Yeah, that's when she started out on the Jay Leno show. Yeah. And then she moved on from there.
Yeah. So it just really sort of opened my eyes to the breadth of it as an instrument, because before it was like you said, when you see a drum, you go up and you just start banging on it. But here she was very professional and engaged and charismatic and passionate about it.
Right. Well, she studied. She went to Boston Conservatory of Music.
Okay.
She went to Berkeley School of Music.
Okay.
In Boston. Yeah. So no, she trained well.
Yeah.
She trained very well. That's why I have a lot of respect for what she does. Yeah.
Just one of my favorites. I always like to see her. Yeah.
Her and Sheila E. another one.
Oh, you can't talk about percussions. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Well, Sheila grew up into it because her daddy was a drummer.
Okay.
And her uncle, and then all her brothers, played.
And the sister who plays with here I go acting like I know everybody, but the sister who you see playing with Lenny Kravitz.
Black, what's her name? Black.
Yeah, she married Carlos Santana. Yeah, her and Carlos Santana married.
She married to Carlos Santana, right?
Yeah. So she is just Blackman. Yeah, just absolutely amazing. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah. She's another one. The greats as a female drummer.
Yeah. Just amazing. Well, Professor Simmons, thank you so much for sharing. And the one thing that I want to make sure that I took away from it to kind of reiterate is what you said, especially as we talk about how we construct our society and how music plays an important role in that. And the elements of that for me were that you said discipline, structure, the approach, and education.
In education, that's right.
Yeah. Just those four. I feel like I'm talking about earth, wind, and fire. Your elements here.
Right.
The very basic. Yeah, the very basic keys as you talked about.
Right.
Yeah. So thank you. Don't go anywhere. Thank you so much for this conversation. And we've already linked to one of your videos into our Facebook. We're on Facebook Live, so we've linked the videos on there. As well. Yeah, and I'll see if we can find the other one that you talked about with Precious Lord and link that one as well.
Yeah, it was recorded. I don't know where it's at today, but we did do it at one time. It was something to see.
Wow. Wow.
And
Wow.
if I get a chance to do it again, I'll let you know
Wow. Yeah. Thank you.
for sure.
That's amazing. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
And we're excited. So, you know, the probably the question in Pauline, if you'll come on up, the question I talked about it earlier about the connection, that you will be a part of the Juneteenth celebration for Pensacola, June 19th. We got some feedback there. That's amazing. Yeah. And we're excited. So, you know, the probably the question, and Pauline, if you'll come on up.
Well, you got to turn your phone off.
That you will be a part of the Juneteenth celebration for Pensacola. June. There we go. All right. Can you hear us now, Pauline?
Yes.
We're excited. So, yeah, if you turn your phone off, we can't. Yeah, we got a lot of feedback going there.
Yeah, my phone is turned off.
Okay.
Now that's coming through on my computer.
Okay. All right. Can you hear us now, Pauline?
Yes, I hear you well now.
We're excited. So, yeah, if you turn your phone off, we can't. Yeah, we got a lot of feedback going.
Yeah, it's not my phone. Both of those.
Got more than one screen open, Pauline.
Pauline, do you have more than one screen open? We got a lot of feedback. It's difficult to hear.
Okay, let me see.
Okay. All right. Can you hear us now? Yeah, close one of your screens out.
Okay. Okay, can you hear me now?
That's better. Wow. Okay. That was rough, brother. That was rough. So thank you, Pauline, so much again for making the connection to Professor Bradley Simmons. We are so excited to have this conversation with him. You know, it's music is about the community. Music is about development. Music is about community development and economic development. It is, as he said, the drumming is that being that heartbeat. So we're really excited that you made the connection for us to have this conversation, and that you are part of the group that is bringing Professor Bradley to the Pensacola State Campus for the Juneteenth celebration, which is on our screen now, June 19th. It's going to be in live and virtual. It is free and open to the public. It is co-sponsored by Pensacola State and the University of West Florida. And so we're really excited that Professor Bradley Simmons is going to be a part of that. So Pauline, can you talk about that for a minute?
Yes, it's going to be sponsored also by the African American Heritage Society. It's going to be African drum workshop. It's going to be an African dance workshop. And there's going to be, the day is going to begin with yoga by Camellia. And that's going to begin at 9 o'clock on 19th at the Student Center on the PSC campus. And we're going to have all day long from 9 a.m. until 7 p.m. We're going to have activities going on related to Afrocentric arts all day long. So everybody can come out and you can get your feel of your culture. And if you got a drum, please bring it, and bring your voice. So we want to hear you. We want to hear your voice. We want to hear your drum, and it's going to be a beautiful day.
Are you telling me I can bring my shakery, even though I have no idea
Yeah.
it's an art piece for me? I can bring it and look like I know some. Okay, but don't do like Professor Simmons said. Act like I know what I'm doing, right? get some learning behind that.
Yeah, most definitely bring it. You know, so everybody, if you're a novice or a professional, it don't matter. You know,
Just bring it. That's all. Just bring it. Don't worry about it.
There we go.
Just bring it. Yeah, we'll get you there.
There we go.
And tell me how you're having Professor Simmons here and his role in this.
Well, I looked at Professor, especially at Duke University, and what I've been trying to do here in Pensacola on the Gulf Coast for years let me say this. In order to see an African drum and dance company, you would either have to go west to New Orleans or you have to go east to Tallahassee. There isn't anything like that happening on a permanent basis here in Pensacola. So we've been pushing for years to get that established here in Pensacola. It's a benefit not only to the Black community, but the community at large in terms of culture tourism and in terms of opportunities it would create for people who are the drummers, the dancers, etc. So it's a broad spectrum of economic opportunity that we've been missing out on. So we're trying to make it happen here.
And so tell me how Professor Simmons is gonna be here. You talked about that earlier, but reiterate that again.
Professor Simmons, he's going to be here 10:30. Well, he's not going to be here physically. He's going to be here virtually. We wanted to have him physically here, but he said he's not going to be able to physically make it here. But he is going to be here virtually, and he's going to have a lot of good information to share.
And that's going to be a live workshop, correct, Professor Simmons? That's a live workshop that you're doing.
Yes, and lecture.
Okay. And that to me, that so he talked about it, the discipline, the structure, and that last key that he talked about, the approach, and then the education. That is just as important, and to encourage people, like you said, even if you're a beginner or just you may have an instrument or be interested, to bring it with you, and then you can sit in on the workshop and learn. To me, that's just as important. So I'm really glad that y'all are leading with that education piece.
Yes.
Yeah, that's important. Education is important. Yeah.
Very important.
That's the key.
Let me say also that during the day we're going to play the Harriet Tubman play is going to be at 3 p.m. and for the finale at 5 p.m. the Lemon Tree Productions is going to come. We're going to have a Manuel Toon, who's a singer, an extraordinary singer. You probably know Angela West. She also goes by the name Manuel Toon. She's an extraordinary singer. We're going to have poets, Tuesday Donaldson, Erica Streeter Hodge.
Oh, wow.
We're going to have Deborah Ferguson from the University of South Alabama, who is a phenomenal African storyteller. She's going to be here as well. So we have a lot of stuff going to be going on that day. Something for everybody. Yeah.
Well, it certainly is a celebration all around freedom and liberation. Again, it's what we celebrate as freedom and liberation here June 19th, and we know again that we've been celebrating it here for the state of Florida in the month of May, and so Juneteenth really does represent a whole bunch of what this country stands for and how we in this country can do better. So we're excited that you're bringing this cultural awareness to us that has been a part of the fabric of this country for so long, and like you said, not really represented. So thank you, Polly. And so we're going to open it up for questions. Lloyd Richard, baby, if you can, if anyone has questions there, I can't see the screen well for that. But.
Yes, I don't see any questions, but I do have one.
Okay.
Yes, I did my African ancestry on my father's side, Professor, and it said that he was his ancestry traced back 100% to the Bimileke people in Cameroon. Yeah, and so what type of music or drums stuff they did there? Do you know?
Yeah, their drums are completely different from what you would normally see, because you don't see too much of anybody coming over or any dance companies coming over from the Cameroons.
Okay.
Now, although I did work with a guy from the Cameroon, his name was Shombe Yembe, and the drumming that they used there was more. Their drumming was more tribal. Drums that you can only get in the bush. Somebody has to make the drums for you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you can't go to no music store and buy a drum from the Cameroons.
Yeah.
That's a rarity there. And this guy that I played for, he was a fire and glass eater. Okay,
Wow.
which is something you really don't normally see. You see fire eaters, but you don't see nobody eating glass. So the Cameroon's style of drumming, if you got that in your lineage, man, you should really follow up on that. So that's a whole different genre of music coming from the continent. Which you'll find real interesting once you get knee deep into it.
Okay, I'll start digging a little bit. Yeah.
I was you, man. I go right into that because that's something to check out.
All right. So did
Hold on. Sound like we may have to commission Polian to make so Polian makes these instruments now. We're gonna have to commission him to look in it and to make that. We're gonna have to talk offline to Professor Simmons.
Yeah. If you want to make one, then find the drum that comes from there and go from there.
Okay. All right.
That's what you want to do. Mm-hmm.
That sounds good. So did any the drum type music did any of the slaves continue to do that during slavery here in America?
They probably did if they were here from the Cameroon, depending on what part of the continent they was coming from.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them came out of the Ghanaian area and Nigerian area. Mm-hmm. But you did have slaves from Africa, from different parts of Africa. So it just depends on who was here during that time.
Yeah, and I was speaking in general, not just Cameroon, not just in general.
Well, in general, then that's anything goes. And anybody was here,
mm-hmm.
and you had all kinds of different types of drumming going on back then.
Okay.
And I'm guessing that's because you're going to bring wherever you travel, forced or unforced, you're going to bring your culture with you. Like you said, it is that heartbeat. It is that it's that rhythm. It's that basic.
Right.
That you're gonna bring it with you. Yeah.
Oh yeah, because a lot of it's already embedded in you anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah.
You just got to bring it out.
Okay.
It's already naturally there.
Okay. So Polian, where do you get your inspiration from the instruments you make?
Well, I like what I just heard. My instruments, one of the instruments I make is this is a shakery.
Mm-hmm.
The shakery that I made. This is a Mbara, a kalimba, but they call it, Hugh Trace called it a kalimba, but the African name for it is Mbara, that I made. I've also made the kora. I'm also going to be there on Juneteenth, who makes the flutes. So we have a pretty good collection of African instruments that we're making right here in this community.
Yes. So
my inspiration for us is kind of like, because I never had, being from here, like I say, I didn't have nobody to go and gain information from. I pretty much taught myself, and okay. I'm pretty sure I got a lot of it wrong. but myself was I do the research since the advent of the internet and so forth.
Okay.
But a lot of my inspiration in the beginning was just spiritual inspiration, like a lot of it was just in you. You know, when I was out there in my backyard and played these drums, it seemed like the spirits just came up, and started dancing, all around me, and then that's what I was feeling, playing drums. So it was for me, from the beginning. I may not have known technically, exactly way, but there was definitely a spiritual connection for me was always there.
Napoleon, that's amazing. Professor Simmons, you talked about being able to go to an art school and learn what, and Napoleon is self-taught. What do we miss when we don't have schools, art schools and art instruction, like they're doing even on Juneteenth? What do we miss? What does a society miss when they don't formalize that education?
Well, what happens in the school, you learn technique, and that's what if you don't study, then you're not learning the technique. Because in the shakerade, there is an art to play in that shakerade. Because one hand does one thing, the other hand controls it, but it's just the way you play it. Okay, and that's what brings. That's when you have to really know the instrument in order to make the instrument talk. Okay, so the teachers that I had for shakerade, I had three of the best shakerade teachers in New York. One was Lucas Shea Wiles, Chief Bay was the other one, and there was one more. Well, I had four. Randy Austin was another one, and when it was Wendell Hayes. They were great shakerade players. Okay, and so and Chief Bay, I used to go to his house for lessons every Monday night.
Wow.
And but there's a certain way that you hold that shakerade. There's a certain way that you hit it from this part of your hand to bring the voice of the shakerade out, because there is a voice in that instrument. So that's why I said you always got to study. You never stop learning. But if you study properly, you'll learn the technique, and the technique will make you a better player. Whether it be on the drum, the shakerade, the bell, whatever instrument you're playing, learn the technique.
Yeah.
And that's the main thing.
Yeah, and I appreciate how Napoleon talked about even just going out to the backyard and and practicing and then engaging or seeing the spirits and being able to engage them. So even that informal training pays off, because here we are, how many ever decades later that he started doing this and continuing that education piece. I really do appreciate that. Yeah, that's pretty powerful. Yeah, so to have both of y'all, I think it's going to be powerful. I got to give my baby a shakeree or something. I got to get him something before Juneteenth. So we can all come out, yeah, and invoke the spirits. That's it.
Now you have two different types of shakerade. You have the shakerade, which is the one that Napoleon's holding, and then you have the big one called the agbe. Okay, the agbe is very big, but it has 8 rows of cowrie shells going down in the middle of the gourd itself. It doesn't cover the whole entire gourd. It just covers the middle part of the gourd. And that's the difference between the agbe and the shakerade.
Okay.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's the reason why we Professor Bradley Simmons, to do his thing on June 19th.
On that day, I'll show you the agbe, and I'll show you the shaker. I'll pull it all out for you.
Okay.
and let you see how it's played.
Okay.
Well, again, thank you both, Napoleon. Thank you so much for making the connection. That's what the Pensacola Network is about. That's what you've been about for a long time in Pensacola, and so we really do appreciate you continuing to keep art and music at the forefront and making sure that it is diverse and inclusive and that it matters, and not just, as Professor Simmons said, anybody can do anything, throw up anything, but you do things that matter. And so we really do appreciate that. So bravo to you again for keeping the love going through music and art. We really do appreciate it. And to all the committee who's putting this together from Pensacola State and UWF, we really do appreciate that. And to Professor Simmons, Lord have mercy. Thank you. We are touching a legacy here, and touching this is, whoa.
Can you see
I'm
that?
shutting
Yes,
up.
yes,
Whoa.
we see it.
Okay,
Yeah, I
this
see it.
shaker,
Beautiful.
this was my first shake rate that my mother gave me when I was as a birthday present back in
Wow.
68.
That's
It looks
beautiful.
beautiful.
I've had
Wow.
I mean, it didn't look like this when I got it because it had different beads on it. So I've changed the beads on it since then. But the gourd itself, I had the gourd since 1968.
Wow. Since 1968. That's
Since
amazing.
yeah,
That's
and
amazing.
so it's still good to go.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Oh, wow. That's awesome, man.
Okay, wait, since we playing show and tell, this is mine.
Okay.
It came from Hawaii about 30 years ago. That's all I know. That's all I know.
Lift it up a little high. I can't see it.
Uh-oh.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's got those shells on it. I forgot what they call those shells. It's like a nut. But yeah, no, hold on to that. Don't let that one go.
I got this in Hawaii, I think probably over 30 years ago, and just didn't know what it was.
Only 25.
Well, yeah. 5 years on the other side of life. Thank you, baby, for keeping my life straight. Thank
There
you.
you go. Well, now you know what it is now.
Yeah. So I've had it for I don't know what I think I've shown it to Napoleon maybe once, but just it's been an amazing piece. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was thinking while you are because you don't know what you don't know until you hear all this good information like today, Professor Simmons, and so I kind of was thinking that maybe for here in Pensacola, maybe somebody ought to put together a at least a quarterly program or something where maybe we can get you to come down, Professor Simmons, and do some training.
Okay.
Awesome. Beautiful.
Yeah, I think that would like a whole series, like at least for like on a quarterly basis. Like like if you were interested, maybe somebody can put together some funding to have you come down and so we can really educate our locals on all this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
okay.
like Napoleon was talking about having that whole environment, like Professor Simmons said, been able to go to school, to get that technique.
I've made proposals to Pensacola State College, and it'd be great if we had somebody like Professor Simmons, to tell them, that he's teaching at Duke University.
Absolutely.
Why can't it happen here?
Yeah, and that's why I say, we probably ought to go with the approach, to get something started, maybe get a grant or get some funding to kind of have a quarterly event workshop where he comes down and teach. And now, we have to make sure the grant is big enough to make it worth your while, Professor.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
You got a lot of knowledge there.
Yeah. Well, thank both of y'all so very much. We're excited. Thank you to everyone on Facebook who looked on the hop in. Thank you for doing it. We certainly want to thank Chris Hendricks with Bantucola for sharing the love and sharing this platform with everybody to make it happen. We really do appreciate it. And we ask everyone to have a safe and happy Memorial Day weekend. Remember, why we are celebrating Memorial Day and honoring those people who have gone before us, civil service, military service, who have died in service and or because of service, to remember those. So we really do appreciate it.
Yes, and so we're going to be doing an 8th anniversary event in July, and we're planning on doing it both in person and online. So so get ready for the back networking in person and also online as well.
Yeah, we haven't booked the motivational speaker yet, but we have already booked Polian Williams, and we booked Misunderstood. So we're trying to make sure
Oh
that
my
it is.
goodness. That
It
sounds
is
like a crash right there.
it is we are celebrating. This is a celebration. We're gonna do it safely, but you know, Polian celebrate. Last time we were live, Polian celebrated with us when Reverend Matthews last. Polian has been celebrating with us every year. And so, you know, we start from the continent. So yeah, so we really do appreciate it, especially this year. So it's all right. Again, both Polly and thank you, Professor Simmons. We really do appreciate it. And we look forward to seeing you virtually at Pensacola State in June.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
All right.
Fantastic.
Take care now. All right.
All righty. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Have a safe Memorial Day weekend. We're going to shut the broadcasting down.
All right. Everybody be safe and have fun. Be kind.
All righty.
Don't forget Dwarf.
Okay, we're still broadcasting, so let me stop.
Oh.
Oh yeah, the Dwarf is who caters our live event, so we look forward to.
That's right. Don't forget the Dwarf Chicken. That's right. I can say that live. That's right. That's right.
Okay.
If y'all still listen, our restaurants down in Belmont de Villas are still open. The Dwarf, Five Sisters, and Blue Dot, they are still. During the pandemic, we only lost one restaurant, Chizuku's. Unfortunately, with those that have been there for 50, 60 years, they are still there and still going strong. And so continue to keep supporting all of our restaurants. And I know, yeah. And our businesses in general, especially the local businesses. So we definitely do appreciate that.
All righty. All right, signing off. Goodbye, everyone.
All right.